that time of the day when we review the papers across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our daily press review on the CAM1 radio. I will always reiterate that the frequency is 99.5 FM, and this is the frequency the People's Radio. The Sun paper is out today here in the city of Limbe, and it talks a lot of stories for us. The Sun headlines with amidst divisions and indiscipline, Musonga dispatches a team to put order in Limbe 1 Tico CPDM sections as working sessions led by Senator Tabet Tando Builder for 26th and 27th of July respectively. You can read the story today on the page 6 of the Sun paper, which is out on the stands as we speak. Also, the Cameroon Development Corporation, in its acronym CDC, launches a personnel head count to clean up a payroll system. You can read the story today on the page 2 of the Sun paper. For battling insecurity in the southwest region, Governor Okalai Bilai decorated with bravery medal. Page 4 of the Sun paper is where you can read this story. Also, tragedy in Limbe has cost the life of the director of the Multipurpose and Youth Center, who was found hanged in his office. The Sun headlines with this story on page 2 of its paper today, as Frederick Sone is said to be no more as he kicked the bucket. Also, due to multiple fatal road accidents, FACO SDO prohibits circulation of heavy-duty vehicles during the day. Page 4 is where you can read this story today on the Sun paper. As road between Quebec and Cameroon over forgotten assets is also another must-read story on page 2 of the Sun paper, as well as at the end of any regime, corruption escalates, as Barrister Akeremuna gives us insightful ideas about democracy procedures in Cameroon on the page 6 of the paper. Decentralization Minister urges Pioneer Municipal Police trainees to contribute to council's development. You can read the story today on page 3 of the Sun paper, which is out on the stands as we speak. The Sun also talks international news as Donald Trump is injured after attempted assassination at the campaign rally on Saturday in Butler in Pennsylvania. You can read the story today on page 7 of the Sun paper, as CDC tenders inside is also highlighted on the front page of the Sun paper on pages 10 and 11 respectively. Newswatch is also out today, and it says government partners hails turning as a vector of peace living together. Now, We Sports Jamboree is the headline as on Newswatch today on page 12. You can read the story there. Meantime, Bia's ploy to knock out opposition raises eyebrows. You can read the story today on this Newswatch paper, which focuses on the 2025 presidential elections and says by the time Cameroon holds its next preliminary or parliamentary elections, Paul Biya will be 93. But the decision to delay the legislative elections by a year also about him, likely confirming his stay in power ahead of the presidential elections to hold next year. The move has infuriated opposition politicians in the country. However, even these opponents may not be allowed to contest, leaving Biya free to win again. You can read all of these stories today on page 3 of Newswatch paper, which is out as we speak. Cameroon English language newspaper publishers to recognize peers, others at award night. You can read this story today as they say, described by organizers as biggest media event in the country. The ceremony on July 25th at the Yaoundé Hilton Hotel is expected to be chaired by the Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi. This story can be read today on the page 5 of the Newswatch paper, which is out. African Continental Free Trade Area, Cameroon ships 100 tons to Algeria. Mr. Luc Magran-Baga Tagana cuts inaugural ribbon. And you can read this story today on the Newswatch, which is also out on the stands as we speak. Also, Newswatch focuses on the Northwest region as the independent conciliator makes case for inclusive development. Page 6 of the Newswatch is where you can read this story. The Glencore affair is also on the center page of the Newswatch paper as Barrister Akeremuna opens Cameroon's corruption can of worms. Calls for swift actions against Glencore to benefit at least 900 billion francs CFA, insist government lacks political will to combat corruption. You can read these stories today on page 9 of the paper. The Efulan fuel tanker explosion in Yaoundé Archdiocese Health Ministry assist victims. You can read this story today on page 9 of the News Watch paper. The Herald Tribune is also out today on the stands as we speak. The Herald Tribune focuses on divorce law cacophony in Anglophone Cameroon and says why Supreme Court Parliament must intervene to save situation. Also, the extensions of members of Parliament's mandate is also highlighted on the paper as Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers blank check Bia's decision on page 3 is where you can read this story today on the Herald Tribune. Commemorating African Anti-Corruption Day, Barrister Akere Muna implores journalists to vigorously report on corruption. You can read this story today on page 7 of the paper. At the 15th edition of Africa Crypto Researcher, policymakers share knowledge on advancing cryptology in Africa. You can read this story today on page 5 of the Herald Tribune. 95 municipal police agents begin training at NASLA, which is the National School of Administration, local administration in Cameroon. You can read this story today on the Herald Tribune as Mancon Interquarter Unity Cup, 2 million francs CFA up for grasp by competitors. All of these stories could be read today on the Herald Tribune, which is out on the stands as we speak. The Horizon is also out today and talks about ICT University on the podium as the ICT for Africa conference opens today in Yaoundé. You can read that story today on page 6 of the Horizon paper. Glencore, who did you pay, is what the Horizon paper questions today on page 9 of its publication. You can read the story today on the Horizon paper. Ghana USA launches 27 billion project to expand Yaoundé Obala route. You can read this story today on page 4 of the Horizon paper, which is also out today as we speak. At the Senate, Nyat Jifenji praises Deputy Secretary General Florence Awasom amid Wongolo scandal. You can read this story today on page 4 of the paper. Also, fighting systematic corruption in Cameroon, Glencore affair. Akere Muna regrets absence of political will, urges engagement of journalists into this affair. And the Mountain Hub fulfilled the dreams of many ingenious techs that's in Yaoundé Innovation Week. You can read the story today on page 2 of the Horizon paper. As Bia's tinkering with the electoral agenda, they say President Paul Biya is tinkering with the electoral agenda, as the Horizon reports. UNSG petitioned to act. Also, Heritage University Institute of Peace and Development Studies in Yaoundé and Women. You can read some of the stories about this university today on the Horizon paper, which is out on the stands as we speak. The Guardian Post is also out today and says Akere Muna goes tough on government over endemic corruption. Also strikes Konak over Glencore affair, insists regime lacks political will to stamp out corruption, declares Biya is no longer has a wherewithal to steer ship of states to safer shores. Read to that point, declares Biya no longer has wherewithal to steer ship of states to safer shores. You can read all of these stories today on page 2 or 3 rather of the Guardian Post paper. Still on the Guardian Post paper, celebrated Cameroonian singer Macon drops epic EP on July 20th. You can for music lovers, you can follow the Macon, an artist here in Cameroon who has been celebrated by so many in the country, drops his EP on July 20th. Also, on the Guardian Post paper, Barrister Akere Muna, Titanic anti-corruption and good governance crusader. Government gets 23.21 billion francs CFA grant to foster local development from the South Korean government. You can read all of these stories today on the Guardian Post paper. The Guardian Post paper also focuses on the Port Authority of Douala and says management unveils innovations that place facility among world's best. You can read this story today on the Guardian Post paper. The Median is also out today. The Median talks about so many stories, and first of all starts with how government dribbles Limbe again and takes bitumen plant to Kribi after deep sea port cement plant shipyard. You can read this story today on the Median paper, and the story actually goes thus: the bitumen plant that since for decades was earmarked for Limbe in the southwest region has finally been taken to Kribi in the south region with 100 billion funds safely allocated for its execution. This other April Fool stunt by the government adds to that of the deep sea port, cement factory, and shipyard projects that were all projected for Limbe, but which were either diverted elsewhere or have simply been abandoned and forgotten. You can read this story today on the Median paper. Also, Camtel workers in turmoil after heavy salary cuts. Uh, you can read this story today on the Median, which talks about excessive remuneration. Corruption in petroleum sector. Who did Glencore pay in Cameroon? Barrister Keremuna insists and persists on this particular issue. On the Median paper, you can read more about this. Nyat hails Florence Awasum, Jilt Bernard Wongolo, and Senate General Administration. You can read all of this today on the Median paper. In the banking sector, Quebec suspends transfer of sleeping funds to SEDEC. Will Yaoundé yield to the sub-regional order? And also evoking biased accusations, DG of CNPS, Mekulu Mbondo reports Minister Mba Acha to BIA. You can read this story today on page 2 of the Median newspaper, which is out on the stands as we speak. The pilot is also out today and says it is time to celebrate ourselves. Fong J. Ngum, social communicator and service manager at the Bamenda Regional Hospital, voices out his opinion about this. Kumhere Echu, honored as a superstar community hope giver on page 5. You can read the story today on the pilot paper. Dr. Al Munang on the constitutions of Cameroon and Kenya. Still on page 5, you can read this story today on the pilot paper, which is out as we speak. Meantime, the Cameroon Baptist Convention Bethel Field Musang to hold 2 days camp. You can read this story today on the pilot paper. Shalom University Institute Bamenda Institute Université de la Pointe Bavoussam Seal for Excellence. All of these stories could be read today on the pilot paper. The pilot paper also says how the Northwest or the NWCA has fared in the coffee sector in 10 years in Cameroon. That's precisely in the Northwest region of the country. You can read all of these stories today on the pilot paper, which is out on the stands as we speak. Breaking news is also out today. The truth at last is the slogan of the paper. And the failed assassination attempt on White House hopeful Donald Trump is what headlines the paper headlines with today. Also, petroleum bribery scandal. Who did Glencore pay? As new UK attorney prepares an official blacklist of Glencore accomplices, Akere Muna and the anti-corruption crusader urges Glencore to collaborate in order to avoid the unpleasant. You can read this story today on the breaking news paper. Also, Tabenken Cultural and Development Association Takura USA family reunion using Texas for schedule for 2024 is also highlighted on the paper. In a shocking turn of events, the ECOWAS summit concludes with a sense of failure as they resort to pleading with the Sahel region for assistance. The unexpected twist has left many questioning the effectiveness of the regional organization in addressing pressing issues. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger now calling the shots. ECOWAS summit fails terribly, pleading with Sahel for help. You can read all of these stories today on Breaking News paper, which is out today on the stands as we speak. Breaking News paper also talks about the presidential elections in 2025 and says Abubakar Usman May, the grounded elite, is talking about stories in relation to the Ahejo regime and how they can incorporate some of Ayo's policies in Cameroon. You can read all of these stories today on the breaking newspaper, which is on the stands as we speak. The French papers are also out today, and we at CAM1 always have a tradition of always, the grand tradition, I should say, of always translating these papers for you. Sunday 2 is out today, focuses on developmental projects in the country. First, the publisher talks of the 23.21 billion francs CFA offered by the South Korean government to help boost the Cameroonian economy, a gift which is reported to be non-refundable. Also, Sunday 2 headlines with the revamping and the construction of a durable lane road, a double lane road, I should say, at the north entrance of Yaoundé, a project which will last for 30 months, costing 25 billion 594 million 556,112 francs CFA. Confidential is also out the headlines with holiday activities in the Penka Michel community in the Menua Division, West Region of Cameroon, as Honorable Guillaume Bakam spearheads the second edition of the inter-village competition in football and handball for women, a competition which will take place from the 14th of July to the 25th of July 2024. Integration is also out today, talks economy with the strategies of import substitution in the CEMAC zone and the future of Fortrack. You can read these stories today on page 6 and 7 of the paper, respectively. The management of the National Insurance Fund, in its acronym or in its French acronym CNPS, is making a buzz in the country on as reported by Integration. This time, according to Integration, so many interrogation points have been raised on the credibility of the auditing process, which was conducted by the Acha Mofo institution. Also, the Director General of the National Insurance Fund, Mekulu Umvondo, denounces many irregularities of the corporation tabled in the document. You can read all of these stories today on the Integration paper, which is out on the stands as we speak. Hebdo Mesala is also out today, talks National Investment Corporation business, as President Paul Biya demands a qualitative approach of investments in Cameroon. This is stated in a document dated on the 10th of July 2024, geared towards the 2025 emergence vision. You can read all of these stories today on the pages 6 and 7 of the paper, respectively. Also, the Andre Onana Foundation is reported to have successfully conducted over 500 surgeries in Cameroon. You can read all of these stories today on Hebdo Meyomesala. The Independent is out as well, focuses on business involved with the Deposits and Consignation Fund and the COBAC, which is the Banking Commission of Central Africa. According to L'Independent, COBAC has ordered the clarification and procedure of transfers in conformity with the modalities of conservation. You can read the stories today on the L'Independent paper, which is out as we speak. Also, economic perspectives are also discussed on pages 10 and 11 of the L'Independent paper, which talks of the recommendations prescribed by the International Monetary Fund on the Cameroonian government. You can read all of these stories today on L'Independent paper, which is out as we speak. The Actual is out as well, focuses on the Director General of the Treasury, Mo Sylvester Tagongo, who says at least 7 new banks will emerge in Cameroon between now and 2030. You can read these stories today on page 1 and page 2 to 5, rather, on the Actual paper. Quotidien Realite is out as well and focuses on water projects and the headlines with the caption, "The arrival of water from River Sanaga in Yaoundé," as the Minister of Water and Energy, Elundu Esumba, is preparing to hand the massive water rehabilitation project to the state-owned corporation CAM1. Also in Yaoundé 4, Senator Francis Pouene has trained more than 150 women in the fabrication of noodles, commonly called spaghetti, based on cassava flour. You can read these stories today on pages 2 and 3 of Quotidien Realite. La Croix du Septentrion is also out, headlines today with the caption, "The Far North, the region of placards and billboards." According to La Croix du Septentrion, most government projects are usually inaugurated, then abandoned, leaving the construction sites in ruins. Most projects in that region never blossom into fruition, as reported by La Croix du Septentrion. La Nouvelle is also out. On page 2 and 3 of La Nouvelle paper, the Pepis project is on the center page. A project whereby water from the River Sanaga will help ease the problems of potable water supply in the most neighborhoods in the town of Yaoundé, as CAM1 takes over from the Ministry of Water and Energy. The Drapo is also out on the stands as we speak and profiles Eliane Veronique Ebutu, president of the PNACC party. It is reported that though through her project on society, she is a prominent, she promotes rather the fundamental values of liberty, equality, and solidarity. You can read this story today on page 3 and 4 of the Drapo paper, which is out as we speak. Also, the Drapo talks sports today with the uh, feminine football competition in Cameroon, where the ladies of Lekia football team were crowned champions in Cameroon. The story is on page 11 of the paper, and you can read that on Drapo as it is already on the stands as we speak. The Zenith paper is out today. The paper focuses on health administration as Dr. Manauda Malashi has recommended Dr. Miwana, a local from the Far North region like himself, to head the FRP SAD Association. According to Zenith, the minister recommended the doctor to the governor of the Adamawa region, Kilaji Taguike Buka. Also, it should be noted that Dr. Miwana is a pharmacist at the General Hospital in Douala. You can read all about this on page 3 of the Zenith paper, which is out as we speak. The Martinez Zogo affair is also on the center page of the Zenith paper as the lawyers are awaiting the verdict from the Court of Appeal in the Central Region. You can read this story today on page 6 of the Zenith paper. A Koji Parliament is out as well, profiles the top boss of the Senate, Marcel Nyak Jifenji, who has been qualified as a dynamic, pragmatic, and hardworking person. You can read this story today on page 2 of Echo du Parlement. Generation Libre focuses on development in day division as 70 million francs CFA and the boss were offered to its top club Panther Dundee. These victims or these actions were carried out by the elites of the area, amongst which was the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Celestin Kecha Coutez. L'actualité is also out today. Talk something quite funny today concerning the kickoff sporting ceremony, especially in football. On the paper, the paper says there is none other person better than Professor Mwele Kombi in this domain, as a picture of him and Samuel Eto'o are on the center page of the paper depicting kickoff ceremonies in football in Cameroon. Echo Martin focuses on the brewery industry in Cameroon as Guinness Cameroon in the SEMA court as brewery industry in Cameroon as this the SEMA court of justice validates the buying of stakes at the Guinness Cameroon by Castel Group. On page 4, you can read all of this story today. Also, Yao Aissatu, the head of the National Investment Corporation since 2003, is being profiled, and the question on Echo Martin paper on page 9 is where you can read this story. L'activateur is also out today. L'activateur says the International Nambudo Association is ready to validate the candidate of Cameroon or the candidature of Cameroon. You can read this on page 3. Also, the Sago 2024 competition debuts from the 20th to the 27th of July at the Palais de Sport in Yaoundé. Horizon paper is out today. Talk sports today exclusively. Horizon paper talks about and throws light on the recent accomplishment of the Cameroon Football Federation, which is on the verge of launching a new academy known as the Fekafoot Football Academy for boys and girls. You can read this story today on page 5 of the Horizon paper. Also, Horizon talks about something completely different and talks a pro basketball Cameroonian player who has just signed a 4-year contract with Indiana Pacers in the United States for a salary of $189.5 million. The pro basketball player is none other than Joel Embiid and Pascal Siakam rather, and as also plus Leke football ladies beat the Louvre FC ladies by 3-0 to win the championship in Cameroon. Media Actions also out talks about humanitarian actions conducted by Honorable Albert Quinche, who supports more than 200 youths, an initiative geared towards boosting the ideology of small and medium-sized entrepreneurship. African Foe is out as well. Focuses on politics in Port Macaque community in the Nyang and Kile division of the Central region, where Professor Louis Richard Fiac Njok and Jean-Pascal Nkeya Nemb say the CPDM, or the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement Political Party, will continue to reign in their municipalities even in the next 20 years, as reported by Afrique Info. Conjuncture Economic is also out, talks exclusively economy today as Kobak addresses the SEDEC situation in the CEMAC zone. According to Conjuncture Economic, the Banking Commission in Central Africa demands clarification from the consignment fund in regards to some irregular transfers. You can read the stories today on page 8 of Conjuncture Economic. La Voix des Jeunes focuses on a potential riot and a strike action from farmers in the northern territory of the country, most precisely in the far north region. According to La Voix des Jeunes, the cause of this potential strike is due to the fact that AFCON and Falcon, who have been subventioned by the government to facilitate their activities, are now reselling their products in the black market, thus hindering the activities of the farmers. You can read the story on page 3 of La Voix des Jeunes. L'Oeil du Sahel is also our reports that the National Assembly, Emmanuel Ngano Jumesi, the Minister of Public Works, challenged the Speaker of the National Assembly, Right Honorable Kabaye Yege Jibril. You can read this story today on the L'Oeil du Sahel. Ecofinance is also out as well. It talks about some companies, insurance companies, to be much more precise, in Cameroon. According to Leopold Nufo, an expert and a senior consultant in insurance and management, he says insurance companies should take responsibility for road accidents because so many families in Cameroon continue to mourn their loved ones since the beginning of the year due to road accidents which they haven't been compensated for. You can read this story today on page 10 of Ecofinance. La Meteo is also out today, headlines with Paul Bia's promise in the supply of potable water in Yaoundé neighborhoods. As a Chinese corporation or companies, MAC, together with CAM1, under the supervision of the Minister of Water and Energy, Gaston Elundu Esumba, will see to the realization of this project. Info Matin is also out as well. Says the Minister of Trade and Commerce, Luke Magra Bagatangana, urges economic operators to produce more in order to satisfy demand and benefit from the advantage of active markets, such as the opportunities offered by the ZLECAF zone. You can read this today on page 2 and 3 of Informatem, respectively. L'Info Show is also out today and reports that during the International Academic Conference in Law at The Hague, Professor Shanda congratulated Professor Maurice Kamto for his brilliant mind. Also, L'Info Show reports that the second national vice president for the Social Democratic Front political party, Louis Marie Kadu, says the Cameroon government has become the distributor of public distractions. You can read all of this today on L'Info Show, which is out as we speak. Le Pelican is also out today, headlines with the Minister of Transport outing tolerance policy, which says zero tolerance to road accidents. The Minister of Transport reaffirms his stance on his determination to fight against incivic behavior on the road. On the communique issued by the minister, some sanctions were inflicted on some individuals and the transport agencies which did not conform to the rules and regulations governing road safety in Cameroon. Le Messager is also out today and profiles Pius Njawi, who is described as an immortal figure in the Cameroonian press 14 years after his tragic death in the United States of America. Eco Sante is out today and focuses on health as always. Today talks about the 4th edition of the DAFA Pharma Excellence Prize. This year's edition is reported by Eco Sante to promote excellence at the Université de Montagne, a health educational facility in Cameroon. Also on Eco Sante, the Order of Opticians in Cameroon have re-elected Solange Veneran Douana as their president. L'Avocat is out today and reports on the Parfait Bapu affair. Laboka reports that Parfait Mbapu is asking forgiveness from Amiral Fouda. Parfait is still in detention at the National Gendarmerie in Yaoundé after falsely accusing uh, Amiral Fouda and insulting him. It should be reiterated that Parfait Fouda has been detained at the national headquarters, Gendarmerie headquarters in Yaoundé, as reported by L'Avocat paper, which is out as we speak. L'Economic Quotidien is also out today and reports that close to 54 chairmen and women of companies and associations are still operating illegally in Cameroon. You can read all of this on page 3 on L'Economic Quotidien. Emergence is out today and reports that more than 2,000 patients were received in rehabilitation centers in 2023 as a result of the consumption of hard drugs. Mutation focuses on the mining sector as a Chinese company in Baturi in the East region inf- has infuriated the local population by exploring lands which have been prohibited for exploration. You can read this story today exclusively on the Mutation paper, which is out today. The Popoli paper is also out today and reports that Navy ships from Cameroon were tracked and seized in Ukraine as a comic portrait was drawn at the center page of the Popoli paper. Of course, it is with Popoli paper that would end this edition of the press review on CAM1 Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your keen attention and keep on listening to more programs on the People's Radio with the frequency 99.5 FM. For presentation, I was a Charles Abane. See you tomorrow, same time, same place on this network.